What's up, gamers? It's your boy, JKon. If you haven't been keeping up, VCT Champions 2023 Los Angeles has just concluded, and we have crowned a new global champion, Evil Geniuses. They were able to take down Paper Rex in the grand finals, claiming the trophy for themselves and North America. They went on a hell of a run and rightfully deserved their crown to complete their Cinderella story and claim the title of best team in the world. But before we get into the story of Champions LA, let's set the groundwork that led us to this historic moment. Alright! Paper Rex, Crew, Giants, and EDG all made up Group A. I was super high on the two Asian teams going into this group, and my belief was rewarded as both Paper Rex and EDG were able to make it to playoffs. Paper Rex with 2-0 Crew taking Split and Pearl without losing more than 8 rounds on both maps. W Gaming just overwhelmed Crew, and despite Kesnet putting on his best Allen Iverson impression, he could not solo carry as his team was simply outgunned as 2 duelists are greater than 1. EDG would then 2-1 Giants in their opener, losing Split in overtime but taking Bind and Ascent. This series was really a monster performance from both Nobody and Fatinho. The latter really put in his best work as his team's solo entry, but Nobody was not letting his team fall to the lower bracket and put up massive numbers in both their map wins to carry his team over the line. Paper Rex with 2-0 EDG to escape groups, having taken Fracture in a dominant fashion, but on Pearl, EDG really pushed them, taking an 11-6 lead at one point before Forsaken and PRX flexed their attack muscles and responded with 6 rounds in a row. We eventually went to overtime where Paper Rex completed the comeback and closed out the series as they headed to playoffs. Kong was for sure gaming, but the rest of Edward was not. Crew versus Giants to see who was sent home first. Kesnet and Davies were 2 of the top 3 performers in this series and were definitely hitting some shots, but it was not enough against the teamwork of Giants, who took the series 2-0. Unfortunately for America's LCQ winners, they were unable to translate that momentum and were sent home not having won a map on the international stage. We're on to the rematch between Edward Gaming and Giants, and this matchup felt like Aaron versus the female Titan. The first fight being kind of all over the place as they figure out what to do against one another, while the second one is where Aaron put the herd down as EDG beat the shit out of Giants in a clean 2-0. They only lost 13 rounds between Split and Fracture, despite Cloud looking like the best player in the server. This group played out exactly how I predicted it, with Paper Rex looking incredibly strong, with something performing at a superstar level. Edward Gaming stepped up their form from Tokyo and looked like they were firing on all cylinders with their support players stepping up, especially when Kong was not playing at his superstar level. Bloody beaut! Evil Geniuses, T1, Foot, and FPX made up Group B. I definitely thought that this group would have been the easiest to get out of, with EG being the only powerhouse, and I definitely slept on the Turkish aim as they ended up being the best team out of the remaining 3. Foot would stomp T1 in a clean 2-0, losing 11 total rounds across Pearl and Haven. A huge shoutout has to go to Kiwi and Cracks, putting up absolute numbers for their team and cracking open sights. Moj was really impressive, especially on the first map, anchoring sights down to stop T1 from getting anywhere. But overall, I was impressed by the way Foot set up their star player to succeed. EG with 2-0 FPX with back-to-back 13-8 map scorelines. Demon 1 will get the praise he rightfully deserves, but my player of the series was definitely Jogamo. He looked impressive on the controller role and even more refined than he was in Tokyo. His utility usage and timings, as well as his crisp aim, really helped set the tone for his team this series. Ethan also deserves a huge shout out with his 32 assists, GOAT, looking like Magic Johnson out here the way he sets his team up. Ayang really tried his heart out, pretty much matching Jogamo, but his team was not as refined and they fell to the lower bracket. Foot were able to push Evil Geniuses the hardest so far and gave quite a series, even though it ended 2-0 in favor of the Americans. This series really highlighted each team being really heavy momentum based. Pearl started out with Foot looking down and out as the scoreline hit the dreaded 9-3, but they were able to make a comeback and bring us to overtime. Unfortunately for them, Evil Geniuses had great rotates and their firepower took them over the line, especially with Ethan putting up another GOAT assist performance. Bind looked really similar to map 1 in the beginning, but Foot found their footing and were able to even out the score after the first half. Unfortunately for them, the second half was all EG, and I want to shout out Jogamo's Raze play. His creativity and movement were a delight to watch, and he definitely lived up to the top 5 Raze rank that I gave him. Honestly, he deserves a higher ranking. T1 was able to 2-0 FPX, and this series was definitely an experienced diff. T1 have more reps against stronger competition and took advantage of the holes. Pause. In FPX's game. MVP of the series was Wingman for me, as Lil Bro was able to get the spike down 5 times on Lotus for FPX and 8 times on bind for T1. But on the real, Saya just farmed FPX despite Young really showing up again for his team. We're on to the rematch between Foot and T1 that again ended in a 2-0 map score, but T1 played them closer this time, pushing both maps to the end. Overall, Mr. Fallen was frying, being his team's MVP, and Krax deserves a huge shout out as his utility was great and provided so much info for his team, which continues to explain why they are okay with running him solo initiator at times. T1 put up a good fight, but they were down 9 first kills overall in the series, and Foot's Floor's lava comps were just too much as they sent the Korean side home. This group didn't have the most exciting matchups in the world, but it definitely provided a lot of unique comps and creativity across the board. FPX loved running double controller on every map, T1 loved Viper Harbor, Foot solo initiator KO, and 3 out of 4 loved running the Gecko. Who doesn't love a bit of variety to shake up the meta?
Wicked!
Coming into Group C, most people, myself included, had Fnatic and NRG escaping groups. Although Fnatic proved everyone right, NRG had to go and screw up everyone's pick'ems. BLG really took it to them in their international debut and shocked the world. BLG came out swinging and beat down NRG in a 2-0 sweep. On Lotus, NRG definitely should have won this map as they won 2 pistols and the anti-eco, as well as a staggering 22 first kills, but they were unable to convert and just nearly got edged out by Bianc and his team. Speaking of Bianc, he hard carried his team this map by top fragging and single-handedly winning a few rounds while being the IGL. Map 2 was all YZ and the judge as the true prophet of Judy blessed us with meat shots. He absolutely farmed NRG, and even when he had the money for a Vandal, he instead went with his trusty shotgun and produced results. His raise movement was on point and really showed us why he was known as the Chinese superstar before Kong Kong showed up. He dropped an incredible 31, 15, and 4 with 396 ACS and 8 first kills. A true masterclass performance, and hopefully the judge will get nerfed after this. Fnatic easily beat down Zeta in a 2-0, only giving up 11 rounds across the 2 maps. Alpha Year was in superstar MVP form, absolutely farming Zeta like he was in a game of Left 4 Dead 2. Zeta really wasn't much of a match for Fnatic as they game planned for Laz and his chamber pick extremely well, completely shutting him down and out with great drone, dart, and breach utility to make him uncomfortable on both maps. Fnatic just played extremely well, and a lot of their success was off the backs of their superstar initiators. Fnatic repeated their beatdown, but this time against BLG, only giving up 10 rounds across the 2 maps, smacking them around harder than an Asian mom would. Fnatic were able to 2-0 with great fundamentals and coordination. They absolutely stuffed the Chinese aggression with Durka having a field day. I wanted to shout out Boaster especially for his Haven performance, as he said Boaster go kill and top fragged for his squad, putting up an insane 100% cast. Another shout out goes to Chronicle, who put up an absolute performance on the Breach and Viper with his utility usage. All of Fnatic were firing the series and absolutely played their roles perfectly, moving them to the playoff stage. NRG had to play Zeta in the first elimination game, and we had one of the longest tech pauses ever. So long that Chet took a power nap. I will never forget hearing that Sky old voice line get repeated over and over and over again. Anyways, after the power nap, NRG were able to recover from being down 3-6 and took bind in overtime. Haven was a quick affair, with NRG only missing out on the 13-0 because of an insane ace from Depp, who was the only Zeta member shooting back at this point. Artist was definitely on a heater, and when given the chance, he promised that NRG would win the rematch against BLG. And lo and behold, Artist could not back up his trash talk as his team was once again whooped by BLG 2-0 in the rematch on 2 completely new maps. They got even less rounds this time, securing only 15 as Victor seemed to be the only one shooting back. Artist did not put his money where his mouth was and ended as his team's lowest rated player. Yosemite and YZ really took it to them and proved that China can be a competitive region as they joined their brothers EDG in playoffs.
Beauty!
Group D, the Group of Death. I think this was one of the toughest groups in the entire tournament with a lot of big names, and it definitely provided as each matchup was a complete banger. Each team comes in with a lot of question marks surrounding them. TL came in as the winners of the EMEA playoffs and being the only team to give Fnatic a loss up until that point, but they are extremely inconsistent. DRX were still deciding between Zest and Foxy9 as their playstyle looked a little bit stale as they bowed out of Tokyo playoffs, going 0-4 in maps. Loud are the defending world champions and dominated Americas all year, but got blown out the same way DRX did. Pause. And ended 7th, 8th with them, as well as having a bit of roster drama coming into the tournament. And Na'Vi likes to troll. They didn't look good during Tokyo, being the first EMEA team grouped, and their LCQ run didn't look too inspiring either. But despite all of this, 2 of these teams would head to playoffs and 2 would be left behind. The opening matchup for the group and the tournament itself was Team Liquid versus Na'Vi, an EMEA head-to-head. This matchup was actually very close, with Fracture and Bind going the distance and more. Despite a constant back and forth with both teams stringing together multiple rounds, Na'Vi was able to pull out the 2-0 win and send their EMEA brothers to lowers. Na'Vi finally decided to stop trolling their comps and return their players to their comfortable roles, and were able to overcome Team Liquid, who had Nats firing on all cylinders as his team's lone superstar performer. He was the only one with a positive KDA on his team, as Soulcast and Redguard both struggled in the series. He even hit the most insane falling wallbang shot on Xiao and almost completed the most insane clutch ever, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. Nats really put on his best LBJ cosplay, as he had no hope from his team, regardless of his efforts. Moving on to our next matchup, and conveniently the second of the opening day, we have DRX versus Loud. If you thought the first matchup was insane, this series provided just as much, if not more, entertainment. Zest was back in the starting lineup and debuted on a new Viper role in the first 2 maps. And boy oh boy, did DRX look like they actually scrimmed with him. I was so impressed by their usage of the Viper utility, and they had a lot of great mid-rounding that seemed to disappear in their previous showings. They showed that they could be title contenders in this tournament and took it to Loud, winning 2-1, with the last 2 maps being dominant performances from them, and the first pushing the defending champs to double overtime. Loud had Aspas performing at an outrageous level, but it wasn't enough as the rest of his team was mid-lane. Even still, Loud looked very good and just made a few too many mistakes that DRX was able to take advantage of. Moving on to the winners match between Na'Vi and DRX. This matchup was an absolute slugfest, as each map was extremely competitive, as 2 went to overtime and the other to the 23rd round. After 76 rounds of Valorant were played, DRX were able to edge out Na'Vi to be the first to escape from Group D with a 2-1 victory. Honestly, this series was Na'Vi's to lose, as they could have taken it 2-0. Not only did they hit map point on Bind first with 2 chances to close out and failed, they also won the opening overtime round, but lost the final 3 to give the map over to DRX. Fortunately, DRX had great resilience and really showed that they could be contenders by stepping up their game to win the series. A huge shout out has to go to RB, who didn't put up the biggest numbers overall, but was absolutely pivotal in his team winning so many rounds. DRX as a whole played extremely well as a unit, and that got them past Na'Vi, as the heroics of Xiao and Sigetsu were unfortunately not enough. And even though CNED fried during split, his Raze and Sage play did not allow him to flourish as much. This was definitely Na'Vi's series to lose, and they lost it. We go to our first elimination match in Group D between Team Liquid and Loud. Loud pretty easily handled TL and closed out with a pretty quick 2-0. They absolutely stomped TL on Haven, running an old comfort comp that they innovated during the regular season of Viper Harbor, which they haven't used since the Americas Playoffs upper semifinals against Furia in May. Loud played smart for retakes and won all of their aim duels with less popping off. Split was a little closer in the first half, ending 6-6, but after TL collected the pistol and anti-eco, Loud wiped the last 7 rounds to take the map. Overall, the series was no competition. TL looked like they were boomed before the match even started, and they didn't put up a great performance either. Honestly, I felt really bad for Nats, as he didn't have the best series, but what can you do when you're left alone versus 4 every round because your team is trolling? TL just had a lot of sloppy protocols and left their attack with too little time on the clock. Loud's utility usage and retakes were just superior, and they cooked TL so much that they're evaporated at this point. I wanted to shout out the new guys Tuiz and Kawanzin, as they stepped up huge in the series, carrying beyond their own weight with their utility. The final matchup is between Na'Vi and Loud to see who escapes groups and who goes home. If there ever was a series to close out a group, this one has got to be a contender, because boy oh boy did it deliver. 3 maps, 72 rounds, and 496 kills later, Loud emerges victorious with a +2 round differential. Pearl started out with an 8-4 half, with Angel absolutely pounding on defense. Loud were able to fight back once the half switched, but a huge couple of rounds from Sigetsu helped push his team to match point first. On the last round, Zipan hit a huge knife on the back of B's site, where Sadak was hiding about to cast his ult, and that turned the tides of the round as Na'Vi was able to take the map. On Ascent, it was another very back and forth game, with Na'Vi claiming 6 out of 7 of the first few rounds, but Loud was able to close it out, giving us another 6-6 half. Loud really turned up in the second half, with everyone going positive and the team getting 10 first kills in the half to really keep the momentum in their favor and bring us to map 3. On Bind, Loud decided to pull out triple controller as Les and Aspas hard carried the attack side, giving Loud a 7-5 lead. Both teams get 6 in the second half, with Sadhak having an absolutely amazing judge play in Hookah to bring his team over the line. This series was such a banger to cap off an already stacked group. I felt really bad for Na'Vi, especially Xiao and Sigetsu, as I felt like they had a great tournament, but despite being so close to escaping against DRX, they just fell a few rounds short here too. Team Liquid was also a disappointment, but although they did have moments of brilliance, it wasn't consistent enough. Both of these teams really showed the strengths of the teams that escaped, as I think DRX and Loud were considered title contenders after this group stage, going through their battles against each other and the EMEA squads. With the group stage wrapped up, we head over to the playoff stage where we have some banger matches to start us out.
Nice shot!
Fnatic vs Loud was a matchup of two titans, but like Aaron vs Reiner, the hometown hero was able to beat down the invader as Loud promptly sent Fnatic down to the lower bracket with a 2-0 victory, handing them their second loss in the year. Fnatic led Ascent through the map pool, and Loud punished that mistake by taking a highly contested 13-11 win. Loud were able to claim the pistol, anti-ego, and bonus round in quite a convincing manner, starting out the map 4-0 before Fnatic responded with 5 rounds of their own, off great op picks from Durka and great utility combos to give them man advantages. They traded the final few rounds, giving us a 6-6 half with Kalendine team killing Sadak in the last round while he was ulted to give him a health refresh. Loud won another pistol and anti-eco, but Fnatic were able to shut down the bonus and claim 2 more rounds, taking the lead at 9-8. Loud responded with 4 in a row with very close rounds coming down to the wire and almost everybody in the server dying in each round, but they're able to hit map point first. Fnatic were able to take 2 rounds back off of Alpha's 3k and a Boaster 4k, but it wasn't enough because in the 24th round, Kalendine was able to get 2 kills in B main early as Sadak chimes in with 2 of his own at tree and finished off Leo to take the opening map. Alpha had a huge MVP performance, but it wasn't enough to take his team over the line as Boaster and Durka both had 5 first deaths, and Aspas outdid his counterpart, getting 10 more kills despite Durka getting 8 opening kills, many of which were with the op on the defensive side. Lotus was not a close affair at all, as Loud had a masterclass performance on their attack side, manipulating the map extremely well and getting picks across the board to salvage rounds. They were in a deficit a lot of the time, but showed up when it mattered, giving them an 8-4 half after taking the first 6 rounds. On defense, it wasn't even a chance once they got rifles, as Loud shut out Fnatic, forcing their hand to plant with very little time, if any. Fnatic were just outclassed and Alpha cooled off from the first map. Loud played exceptionally well across the board and looked to be in championship form.
Nice shot!
We're on a Paper X versus Foot, and even though the scoreline was in line with what everyone predicted, Foot actually put up a fight on the defensive side of Ascent, being able to claim 8 rounds despite losing the pistol. Paper X have finally pulled out the something Reyna with a very meta-breaking team comp of Harbor, Viper, Sky, and Raze, and they really turned it on during the second half, winning 4 in a row, dropping 1, then repeating that pattern as they hit 12-10. Foot tried to go for a B split, but are met by something as he takes out 3 and takes the first map. On Pearl, Paper X opened up the map with 10 straight rounds, closing out the half only losing 1 round. They were able to take the second pistol but lost 3 in a row before they finally closed it out in round 17 as they sent the Turkish team to face their EMEA brothers in Fnatic. Overall, PRX had 4 players firing on all cylinders, getting 30 plus kills each in the series. For comparison, Foot's highest fraggers had 31 and 28 respectively. Paper X were just too good and too strong.
Nice shot!
We're on to our only Asian quarterfinal matchup between DRX and BLG. BLG had a great showing against NRG, but the real test would be against Group RX, who have looked revitalized. BLG came out absolutely swinging, taking 10 of the first 11 rounds of their defensive half on Lotus. Unfortunately for them, this is where DRX put on their game faces and won the following 12 rounds in a row to sweep BLG's momentum to the side and take the first map. DRX kept this momentum going into Haven, claiming the first 6 rounds of the map before BLG finally broke the losing streak. The half ended in DRX's favor 7-5. BLG were able to win the pistol and the anti-eco to tie us up, but DRX were able to clean up the rest of the map by winning 6 out of 8 and taking the series 2-0. This was a great performance from DRX, showing that they have the mental fortitude to compete for titles. A lot of their rotations looked on point and they had very good reads on their defensive halves. Huge shout out has to go to Zest, as he has absolutely reinvented himself on Viper and his utility and timings have been immaculate, and he's really been DRX's X factor in the tournament. Buzz did a great job on the entry, and despite having COVID, Mako was able to put up huge numbers as they sent BLG to lowers.
Nice shot!
We're on to the long-awaited matchup between Evil Geniuses and Edward Gaming. Would Boostio's trash talk finally catch up to him? Split opened up with the first 7 rounds going the Chinese team's way, with EG being able to recover near the end, giving them a 4-8 half. In the second half, EG were able to take 8 out of 10 rounds, hitting map point before EDG were able to bring us to overtime off the back of Nobody and KonKong's judge usage. Smoggy and KonKong secured the final 2 OT rounds to not let the map slip away from them. We moved to Ascend where Evil Geniuses just absolutely dominated them, only losing 5 rounds in the entire map, 4 of which were in the first 5 rounds of the map. This was a straight up masterclass performance from Evil Geniuses, especially Demon 1 and Ethan. The former put up an absolute show, getting an ace and many multi-kills. He ends the game with 22, 13, and 5 with 336 ACS and 47% headshot percentage. I know headshot percentage doesn't matter that much, but that's close to 11 of his kills being headshots, which is insane considering he likes to op. Ethan, on the other hand, had some of the most beautiful flash usage I've ever seen and just took EDG's retinas consistently. He got insane value with his knife and ended the map 18, 9, and 12. Unfortunately for EDG, Pearl was just like Ascent and they lost 13-5. This was another Demon 1 and Ethan show as they both absolutely farmed EDG. Ethan was on the Yoru and played him more akin to Initiator than a duelist, getting massive information with his ults, getting out of one and done situations with his teleport, and really setting up his team with flashes. EG overall had better protocols in mid-rounding and were able to shut down the Chinese aggression and really hold KonKong down in the series. Boostio's team backed up his trash talk and they sent EDG to the lower bracket to face their Chinese brothers.
Go, go, go!
We head to the first lower bracket matchup where we have Fnatic versus Foot, an EMEA head-to-head that unfortunately ended like it has every time for Foot, with Fnatic being the victor 2-0. Unfortunately, this was just a team gap diff. Fnatic have played this team many times in EMEA and still showed that their dominance is no joke. The MVP of the series has to be a Turkish player, and unfortunately for the 5-stack, it was the lone youngster Alpha here. He put up an insane scoreline of 45, 19, and 2, matching Durka's 9 first kills and 5 first deaths. An absolutely insane performance from the Sentinel player and rightfully showed his MVP status and why I rated him number 1 in my Sentinel rankings. He absolutely feasted on Foot like they were a turkey sandwich, just taking bites from his opposition as he had a total of 10 multi-kills in the series. The next highest being Durka with 9, who had an insane series himself. Fnatic's util was on point as I said earlier, and Leo Chronicle's impact could not go understated. I want to shout out Chronicle especially as he really picked up his performance from the previous series and put up a 30, 17, and 16 scoreline. Foot just got out-aimed and outbrained, and although they had stretches of rounds playing really well, they unfortunately could not keep their momentum going. I felt really bad for Kiwi as he had an extremely tough series being the entry for his team, going 18, 34, and 0 with 0 and 11 first kills to first stats. Absolutely tough as he met the immovable brick wall of Alpha here, going 3 and 15 against his fellow countryman. If this was TF2, Alpha would have a huge target over his head because he absolutely dominated Kiwi. Hopefully Foot don't get too discouraged because they had a great tournament and were able to show the world their creative and unique style. They unfortunately came up against some of the toughest matchups in Evil Geniuses, DRX, and Fnatic in this tournament.
Go, go, go!
We're on to the Chinese head-to-head matchup for elimination. As I previewed in my pick'ems video, link down below if you want to see how so wrong I was with my predictions. I said that this was going to be a banger series with a rematch of the Chinese qualifier finals. The last 2 times these teams matched up, EDG had a 2-0 series lead and were up 6-1 in maps. EDG stomped BLG's bind defense into pieces as they took a 10-2 half. BLG were able to claim a pistol and anti-eco, but EDG closed out the final 3 rounds to take a dominant 13-4 map. Split, on the other hand, was much more exciting as BLG dominated the defensive half, going 8-4. EDG were able to claim the second pistol and anti-eco round, but traded 2 back to BLG. EDG were able to take the next 5 rounds before dropping another pair as BLG were able to hit map point first. EDG were able to fight back in the 24th round and brought us to overtime. Nobody completely trolls the round by pushing up mid alone and gets picked, which spurned BLG to take the lead. EDG were able to tie us up for another overtime off the back of Smoggy, but K-Knight and Bianc put them away in the final 2 rounds to give BLG the map win 15-13. What a masterclass performance from YZ, really putting his team on his back and taking it to EDG. He ends with an insane 31, 20, and 3 with 303 ACS and 10-2 first kills to first death. His defensive stats were even more boggling, going 19, 9, and 2 with 345 ACS and 7-0 and first kills to first deaths. A true beast and showed why he should be known as the Chinese Rays. We head to the second map 3 of the playoffs so far, with Haven being an extremely back and forth engagement. BLG would win 4, then EDG would win 4, with the final 4 being split between the two to give us a 6-6 half. EDG won another 4 in a row before BLG got 2 pairs of rounds split by an EDG round to give us 10-11. EDG were able to close out the final 2 rounds and eliminate their Chinese brothers, which made Kong very upset as he didn't want to be the ones to eliminate them. Haven was another thriller that really showed how momentum-based these teams are, especially EDG, because if they're able to get Kong and Op, they're able to steamroll rounds. Yosemite, K-Knight, and Beyond put in their best effort for the team and coming up with incredible score lines, but unfortunately it wasn't enough as nobody put on his carry pants and put up a crazy 27, 14, and 5 with 306 ACS, really turning it up for his team and putting them on his back, having great dart utility and trading out for his team really well. Overall, this series was definitely a banger, and outside of map 1, these 2 maps have been some of the most thrilling so far in playoffs. All of EDG were fragging pretty evenly over the series, with no one being a complete standout, whereas BLG really struggled playing 4v5 as Rin was a -20 in the series and had a pitiful 76 ADR. I know he had some great utility usage, but my man could not shoot back this series, and EDG definitely took advantage of that. If BLG wants to continue to grow from this event and go further, I would consider seeing if they can get another controller player, because it is such a key role in today's game. BLG really came in, 4-0'd NRG, quite possibly being the catalyst to seeing that team fall apart, and left the tournament after making quite a show on stage. What gigachads. I expect to see them in other tournaments, especially as YZ is a superstar.
Nice shot!
We're back in the upper bracket semifinals between Loud and Paper Rex. This series was an absolute banger, with Lotus and Pearl really giving us a show. Lotus was extremely back and forth, with both teams not being able to string together more than 2 rounds in a row. There were a ton of 50 rounds that bailed out both teams, but something was the absolute difference maker as he put up a monster performance on Jet, going 31, 20, and 3 with 297 ACS. He bailed out his team with insane picks and being incredibly clutch and creative with his Jet movement, and really showed why he is one of the best in the world for a reason. Loud should have won this map, as they hit map point first with 2 tries to close it out, and they won the first overtime round, but PRX were able to win the last 3 to steal the map away. Map 2 with Split was all the less show, because like an infomercial, he was on 24/7. He had one of the highest ACS scores I've ever seen, as his team only dropped 2 rounds the entire map as we quickly hit Pearl. Loud were able to take 4 of the first 5 rounds, but once PRX were able to find their footing, they were able to close out the half 7-5. Paper X were able to continue their momentum and win 5 of the next 7 rounds, hitting match and series point 12-7. Loud finally responded with 3 in a row, but Paper X were able to close it out and send Loud to losers. Osbas was putting up numbers, ending the map with a 27, 14, and 2 scoreline with 326 ACS. Unfortunately, he couldn't carry his team hard enough, as Paper X found an answer for less and really shut him down this map after his heater on Split. All of Paper X played insanely well. Mindfreak had some insane lurk value in this game. Honestly, the first map really showed both teams' championship ability, but Loud really turned it on in the second map. It was a bit unfortunate for them, as they did have this series slip away from them, as they could have won 2-0, but with great resilience from Paper Rex and some insane hero plays, they were able to bring it back and take the series. Paper Rex's overwhelming ability to take fights and win their duels was on full display on Lotus and Pearl, and their fragging ability and ability to counter Loud strategies pushed them over the edge to guarantee a top 3 finish in this tournament.
Nice shot!
Closing out the upper semifinals, we have DRX versus Evil Geniuses, and boy oh boy was this series not even close. Fracture started out 8-4 in favor of Evil Geniuses, and even though DRX were able to make a fake comeback, it truly wasn't close, as EG flexed why they're the best Fracture team in the world and took the map 13-9. DRX won even fewer rounds on their Lotus pick, being able to pick up 2 rounds in each half, going out 13-4. Demon 1 and Calm absolutely dominated both maps for their team, and EG's firepower and calling were overwhelming, forcing Stax, Mako, and RP to all struggle in this series. Not much else to say, but EG just took DRX's championship momentum and threw it in the trash.
Go, go, go!
Back in the lower bracket, we have Loud versus Edward Gaming. I was rooting for EDG here, but Loud has definitely put on a convincing performance so far in playoffs, and this series did not disappoint. Bind opened up with a 6-6 half, and EDG won the following pistol, anti-eco, and bonus. Loud were able to respond with 4 in a row of their own before EDG were able to take 4 of the last 5 to close out the map. Despite being down 17-7 11 in first kills to first deaths, Loud played really well to fight back in this game. Twiz and Aspas were fighting real hard, putting up 23 kills each, but they were not enough to stop the monster of Kong's Reina as he put up 26, 17, and 5 with 300 ACS and being the difference maker for his team's win. Ascent was an agent mirror matchup, but Loud definitely put on a masterclass performance, reading EDG like a book and putting them on the back foot. Loud dropped the first 2 rounds, but were able to secure 8 rounds in the first half. They went on to win the first 4 rounds of their attack side before trading rounds to take their home map pick of Ascent 13-5. Loud took their first death criticism from the first map and turned it completely on its head, giving themselves a 16-2 head-to-head in first kills. Loud all played extremely well, like the well-oiled machine we know and love, with Sadok having insane utility usage and ending up 11, 10, and 25 with 237 ACS. A great performance from the championship-winning IGL. Outside of the pistol round first blood, nobody in Kong combined for 11 first deaths, and when you're in that much of a disadvantage on a map that is so heavy on fundamentals, your team just can't win. Haven was the cherry on top to the series as this map was an absolute battle. Both teams' flash initiators really took this game in their hands and put up tremendous score lines. The first half opened up with Loud winning 2 rounds, EDG winning 3, Loud winning 4, and EDG closing out with 3 in a row to give us a 6-6 half. Loud came out firing in the second half, winning 5 rounds in a row before EDG were able to respond with 3 of their own. Loud hit map and series point off the back of Zine and his massive balls, challenging Kong's op in B mid. In the following round, Sadok follows his youngster's play and peeks the Chinese opper with his massive cojones and drops Kong, but his team was unable to convert. EDG were able to claim another off of Kong, who felt disrespected 2 rounds in a row and pushed a Viper and Killjoy Molly with his gigantic balls to kill 2 before falling. Loud were able to take the final round of regulation by investing 3 ults into the round and eliminating EDG. Zine ended 25, 16, and 5 with 258 ACS, setting up his team with amazing flashes. Smoggy, on the other hand, had 23 kills, 17 deaths, and 10 assists with 279 ACS, as this kid was bailing EDG out, especially during the end. He was really the only person performing in the final map and tried his hardest, but Loud were just too much and their utility usage was just too good. Loud being able to lock out EDG for long periods of time really gave them such an advantage in this map, and even though it was really close, I think Loud just performed tactically better and EDG got bailed out by hero plays. Overall, the series was very close, but I think Loud's fundamentals won out here. They just had such good calling for rotations and pivots and just outplayed EDG in the macro sense. Smoggy and Kong played quite well, but their teammates didn't perform up to par. Haodong was especially punished this series, going 27, 49, and 37 with a -22. I wouldn't put too much blame on him though, because if I had to call against triple controller bind for 24 rounds and Viper Harbor on Haven for 24 rounds, my mind would not be on shooting either, especially when Loud seemed to have a bit more tactical depth. Loud did a great job at shutting down EDG's momentum and prevented them from snowballing with Kong on and op. He did have 16 total op kills in this series, but all of them came from map 1 and 3, which just goes to show why map 2 was such a dominant performance from Loud. It's sad to see EDG go as they've gotten so much better and always brought the hype, but the defending world champs had a destiny to meet and they were in good form to meet it.
Go, go, go!
The final matchup we had before the Kia Forum came into play was between DRX and Fnatic. If DRX wanted to make a statement that they did belong in championship conversations, here was the place to do it, and Bind was a great place to start. DRX completely obliterated Fnatic on Fnatic's map pick, going 13-1, completely reinventing their defensive side by being ultra aggressive. They played incredibly well around Zest's walls as both the flashers for DRX took Fnatic's retinas and chewed up the European side. Mako was in prime form, putting up 17, 7, and 3 as his util timings and ult usage showed why he is one of the best, if not the best controller in the world, handing Fnatic their worst map results ever. Boaster definitely had a rough one, not getting a kill until the last round of the map. Most of the time, that kind of a beatdown can be brushed off as there wasn't as much invested into the match as say a 13-10 would and bounce back Fnatic would, as they would open up Haven with a 6-6 attack half. They lost the pistol and anti-eco, but were able to win the next 7 of 8 rounds to take us to split. The map opened up with DRX winning 3 rounds and Fnatic responded with their own hat trick. Fnatic won 4 rounds in a row, sandwiched by DRX rounds to give Fnatic a 7-5 lead. Fnatic would win 6 of the final 7 rounds of the game as they would win split and make an incredible comeback in the series after dropping such a horrific map 1. Leo was just an absolute force, putting up 25, 7, and 13 with 326 ACS and 100% cast, ending with a 5.4 KDA, showing why I rate him as the best player in the world, absolutely bailing out his team with great setups, trading, and clutches. Overall, the series was really good. Bind was DRX domination, Haven was really back and forth, but Fnatic just locked DRX out and Alpha was not going to let them lose, and their teamwork and utility cleaned up a lot, leading them into the 3rd map. Leo woke up and remembered why he's one of the best in the world and really helped propel his team to victory, ending with a 45-30-27 scoreline with 204 ACS and being his team's top performer. What's even more mind-boggling is if you remove the first map, he went 41, 18, and 24 across 2 maps. Truly my GOAT. Big shout out to Mako, who returned to superstar form for his team, absolutely farming and putting up a 47-38-22 scoreline, 247 ACS, but more importantly, he gave them so many rounds, especially with low buys, and he bailed them out more than once when they were struggling. A tough run for DRX to end on as they go out fit 6 again, but they really showed much better form in this tournament than they did before and gave a lot of people belief in their abilities. They're consistent playoff contenders, but aren't truly title contenders just yet. PRX, EG, Loud, and Fnatic are the final 4 teams headed to the Kia Forum. Each team had a great storyline being written. Paper Rex, with their unique playstyle and approach to the game, would love to send off their GOAT race player Jing with a trophy as he has to enlist for his military service. EG, with their Cinderella run that got kicked off with a single roster change and a coach stand-in knifing 100 thieves. Loud, as the defending world champions, trying to be the first back-to-back winners. And Fnatic, to cement themselves as an era and the greatest roster of all time as they take the triple crown.
Let's go, mates!
We're on to the fated rematch as Fnatic and Loud face off for the 3rd and final time of the year. Loud came out swinging on split, only dropping 4 rounds in the first half. Loud were able to win their 2nd pistol, anti-eco, and bonus of the map as they secured 5 in a row to take split 13-4. Sadok's calls and utility were on point as the IGL had his team working together like a pack of wolves and absolutely shut down all of Fnatic's attempts to do anything. Ascent gave us a mirror matchup as both teams opened up the half with 3 rounds in a row. Loud win 2 more before Fnatic responded, and the pattern was repeated to close out the half 7-5 in favor of Loud. Fnatic finally claimed their first pistol round of the series off of a great 1v2 clutch from Boaster and were able to string together 3 more rounds afterwards. Loud finally claimed 2 defensive rounds, but Fnatic closed them out with 4 rounds in a row to take Loud's home map pick 13-9. Kalonzine and Aspas tried their best, putting up 22-16-7 and 22-16-4 respectively, but it wasn't enough to overcome Fnatic's more balanced kill distribution, especially as Leo went demon mode on the attack half, securing multiple 3Ks for his team. Haven started out like the previous 2 maps with Loud winning the first pistol and anti-eco. Fnatic were able to respond with 1, but were shut out as Loud responded with 2 of their own. Fnatic secured a hat trick of really close rounds before Loud closed out the half with the final 4 rounds, winning it 8-4. Fnatic were able to take the first 2 rounds of the second half, but the next quarter of rounds were all Loud as they only dropped 1 of 6 as they secured the map off of a huge 1v3 clutch from Tuiz that all but put Fnatic away. This map was all the Aspas show as he put on his 2011 Dirk Nowitzki cosplay as he couldn't seem to miss, going 26-10-3 with 320 ACS and 6-1 in first kills to first deaths. Outside of Fnatic's attack side on Ascent, Loud had control of this series all the way through. Loud had a first kill advantage of 36-23 or plus 13, which conveniently was the same amount of first kills that Aspas had in the series, going off for 59, 39, and 12 with 258 ACS. Kalonzine can't be left out either as he had a tremendous series fragging out of his mind, especially with an Odin and providing his team with incredible utility. Unfortunately, this is where Fnatic's run ends as their 3P destiny has been burst. They definitely looked very mortal this tournament, and although every one of their players had pop-off games, I felt only Leo was the only one really consistent throughout, and as my boy Jarrett Allen so aptly put it, the lights were brighter than expected. I still love this team and will be rooting for them next year as I truly think they will continue to be contenders.
Holy do Truly.
We're on to the upper finals between Paper Rex and Evil Geniuses. Winner of this match secures top 2 and a 2-map ban advantage in grand finals. If there ever was a series to top Loud versus Paper Rex and Hype in the playoffs, this match was the contender that delivered. We opened up the series on Ascent with Paper Rex winning the pistol and 4 out of 6 of the following rounds. Evil Geniuses finally stringed together 3 rounds in a row before Paper Rex closed out the half with 2 of their own, 7-5. The second half had Evil Geniuses winning the pistol and anti-eco before Paper Rex responded with their first defensive round. Evil Geniuses claimed 1 more before Paper Rex were able to secure back-to-back retakes. Round 19 was a huge pivotal moment as Calm was able to secure a 1v2 clutch and give his team the momentum to close out the map, winning 4 subsequent rounds 13-10. This matchup was all the Calm and Mind Freak show as both members were getting huge value out of their flanks, securing multi-kills and clutching rounds for their team. PRX's duelists were farming, but for Evil Geniuses, no Calm was no win. Calm put his team on his back, being a huge fragging factor and clutching out of his mind, getting all 28 of his kills by the time EG were able to wrestle the lead from Paper Rex as he swung the momentum back in his team's favor. EG were able to open up Bind with the first 2 rounds. Paper Rex responded on their rifle round but traded rounds with Forsaken going huge for his team's second. EG stringed together a hat trick with Paper Rex responding with their own triad of rounds as EG closed out the half 7-5. Calm was maintaining his form from Ascent as he ended the half 15-5-3 with 282 ACS. The second half began just like the first half with an Evil Genius pistol and anti-eco, but that's the last we would hear from them on this map as Something, who was having a very difficult start to the map at this point, going 3-13, got a knife kill on Ethan and picked up his form, getting very crucial op kills in the following rounds to help secure his team the victory. Jing and Devi had masterclass performances as they really carried their team over the line as the latter pulled out one of his patented Devi rounds and going 20-15-2 with 238 ACS. The Raised Prodigy gave us another show and I'm just glad that we were blessed with another opportunity to see his greatness. EG were able to open up Pearl with 3 rounds in a row off of Ethan's 4K in the pistol. PRX were able to find their groove on the attack and secured 6 rounds in a row off of huge rounds from Forsaken and an incredible 1v3 clutch from Mindfreak. EG were able to wrestle back control off of Demon 1 getting a 4K with his Bladestorm as they closed out the final 3 rounds in the half 6-6. Ethan and Demon 1 were the main ones fragging for the team, with the former going 19-9 in the first half. EG repeated their opener but this time adding 2 more rounds. But PRX, not to be outdone, took 5 in a row of their own, 2 off the back of Mindfreak's huge ability to clutch. EG were able to take map and series point, but Forsaken, stubborn as a Taurus, mowed down 3 of EG's members with his cow-themed gun as he took his team to overtime. The first OT rounds were traded, but the second was all PRX as Devi had a typical Devi round to bring them to match point, and Something closed it out with balls as big as the ones on Wipeout as he snipes down 3 EG members at B long without panic using his dash. Another one of those superstar plays that very few can get away with but make all the differences in winning or losing. PRX were able to just edge out EG this time around as they had a lot of absurd rounds go their way, especially in the last map, Every Inch Matters. Mindfreak and Calm had insane performances for the team, combining for 11 clutches won between the 2 of them, but the Indonesian reigned supreme as his team moved on to the grand finals with a substantial advantage.
Let's go, mates.
We've now reached the best of 5 stage of the tournament as Evil Geniuses faces off against Loud to see who will face Paper Rex in the grand finals. When I first saw the map pick ban, I thought that Evil Geniuses had to win it in 3 or else Loud could easily reverse sweep. And this series definitely got very close to that prediction. Loud opened up on Ascent with a flawless pistol round and an anti-eco. EG got on the board with 3 in a row off of great play from Demon 1. Loud are able to get 1 back off of a less 3K, but EG are able to take 2 back in response. Loud had great back-to-back retake rounds, but ceded the last 2 rounds to EG as Calm secured the half with a perfectly timed flank. Evil Geniuses won the pistol off of a great retake, and Ethan hit the nastiest flashbang to secure their second in the half. Both teams would trade rounds before Loud would string 2 in a row before EG won another. This pattern would repeat with Ethan saving the day for EG and putting them on map point first. Aspas was not going to go out in regulation as he cracked open back-to-back sites to bring us to overtime. Unfortunately, Jogamo said, anything you can do, I can do better, as he secured a 3K then a 2K to open up sights for his team as they took Ascent 14-12. Demon 1 and Les had a huge head-to-head, putting up almost exactly the same numbers. That unfortunately could not be said for Lotus, as it was a masterclass performance from Evil Geniuses, going 13-4, putting Jogamo back on raise as he farmed with Demon 1. Both players ended with over 20 kills each, a true 1-2 punch backed by some great support. Ethan was a duelist wet dream because there was always a flash setting Jogamo up to be be explosive. Loud were definitely beaten down, only taking 2 rounds on both halves, with no one on their team outside of Les having more than 9 kills and 160 ACS. Les was still frying, going 16, 14, and 3 with 276 ACS. Pearl wasn't really close as Loud completely picked EG's defense apart as Les was able to get some crazy lurks and get really deep flanks. Loud won 6 in a row before EG finally broke the streak by using Ethan's ult to counter Les's pit and calm beam Les down to put EG on the board. EG were able to claim 2 more rounds, but the half was closed out in a dominant 9-3. EG were able to claim the pistol and started to mount a comeback, winning 5 of the first 6 rounds off the back of Calm's insane clutch ability, but unfortunately it was not enough as Loud took 3 rounds in a row to close out the map 13-8. Loud's retakes looked a little too clean and really made the clock EG's enemy. It also helped that Les and Aspas combined for 22 out of their team's 32 kills in the defensive half. Split was an even more dominant affair from Loud as they allowed EG 1 fewer round than they did on Pearl and were able to keep Demon 1 under 20 kills for the first time in the series. Loud opened up with a 9-3 attack half, with Aspas making me regret hard that I didn't rank his raise, especially because he was cooking. I'm talking Remy from Ratatouille level of cooking. Aspas was 12-2 after 4 rounds, used his showstopper twice in 6, thrice in 10, and ended the half 23-9 with 487 ACS. Loud took a clean pistol as Aspas claimed 2 more kills. EG were then able to take 2 rounds off of their force buy before Loud responded with 2 of their own. EG claimed another double before Tuiz closed out the map 13-7. Aspas had Loud's front in the first half and Kawazine had their back in the defensive half, combining like a lion dance duo to tie up the series 2-2. Bind was EG's bounce back map, with them winning 5 rounds in a row to start off their attack half, more rounds than they won in a row in the last 2 maps. Loud were able to respond with 2 rounds off of Aspas securing a 4K and then a 3K. Both teams trade rounds, with EG securing their 7th off the backs of a great aggressive map flip, and Loud closed out the half with the last 2 rounds, with Les winning a 1v2 clutch to bring us to 7-5. Loud were able to take the pistol but lost the next 3 rounds off of some insanity from Jogamo. Loud took 2 of the next 3, but Ethan bailed out his team in back-to-back rounds as EG claimed their 3rd map in the series 13-8. This map came down to 1, a ton of duels, 2, the clock almost running out many times, and 3, how frustrating it must be to play against Ethan. Aspas was fine in the first half, going 17-9-2 with 411 ACS, but unfortunately for him, his attack half was completely shut down, going 0-8-0 with his score looking like a face. EG played better with 66% of the rounds, with them having the man advantage. What a great series from both of these teams. Outside of the first map, every opponent didn't get more than 8 rounds. A huge series from Demon 1, not only matching up directly to Aspas's output, but even outdoing him while playing the Astra and Chamber role. He set a new world record with 101 kills and a best of 5 on land, beating his previous PR of 99 that he set in Tokyo. EG are off to the grand finals to have a rematch with Paper X.
This one's ours now.
Here we are at the penultimate matchup in the tournament. Both teams fighting to cement their legacy in history. EG's open tryouts find roster change that turned them around versus the last time we'd see this starting 5 from Paper X, probably ever. And as I revealed at the beginning of this video, EG were able to overcome Paper X and are now crowned the new world champions, taking the series 3-1. I was actually at this game, live in the crowd, and it was insane. Honestly, it was such an experience to be there in person. The crowd and the vibes just absolutely made the final matchup go so hard. I feel, especially it being an NA tournament, a lot of people were rooting for EG as the NA team, but there was definitely a lot of people rooting for Paper X out there, myself included. So it was definitely really nice to just be a part of the crowd and the experience. The stage itself was absolutely beautiful, and I was sitting on the Paper X side, which was really nice as I got to see Jing and Something's player cams. The opening ceremony was out of this world with their production, and I just loved how they dropped the trophy from the sky. They used augmented reality to basically deliver the champion's trophy through the roof and descended it onto stage with a bunch of fireworks, and I thought that was just super cool. All in all, they had one of the best opening ceremonies that I've ever seen from a Riot production, and I've pretty much watched every single one from League of Legends Worlds. The sounds were electric in there, and we all got these bracelets that lit up with the spike, and it felt like the crowd was part of the experience, really tying us to the game itself. I had a lot of fun, and hearing the shots that these players would land silence the crowd will be something that I never will forget. 10 out of 10 would go again.
Anyways, let's get into the match. Paper Rex had the upper hand in map veto and were able to take out Haven, their permaban, and Fracture, Evil Genius's best map. PRX picked Split as the opener because it was a map that EG seemed to struggle on in the tournament, being 0 and 2 so far. The final 4 maps to come out were Ascent, Bind, Lotus, and Pearl. EG changed their comp going into Split, going with the double dive duelist and letting Jogamo loose as the map opened up with pretty much how the series would go, and EG taking the first 2 rounds. Paper Rex responded off the heroics of their duelists and were able to string 3 rounds in a row. Demon 1 and Jogamo take one back, with Demon 1 hitting the nastiest shots on 2 jiggling opponents before Mind Freak yoinks back around with a crisp triple headshot. EG responded with a clean 2v2 retake, pinching Devi in his Viper's ult off of a great flash from Ethan. Forsaken hits the nastiest flick onto Jogamo, and something gets 2 entries on A to start off Paper Rex's 4-round win streak to close out the half. Evil Geniuses repeated their first half opener and took the first 2 rounds of the half. Paper Rex took one back, shutting down Demon 1 after his 3k, but that would be the last round for Paper Rex for a while, as EG strung 6 rounds in a row to take map point. Paper Rex finally get a round off the back of Jing's Showstopper 2k, but it's not enough as EG cleanly take number 13 and map number 1. The switch to double dive really unlocked Evil Geniuses on this map, and their duelist rewarded them with an incredible performance from both of them, as Jogamo was huge on the defense and Demon 1 ginormous on the attack. Ascent finally opened up in Paper Rex's favor as they were able to claim the first 4 rounds. EG responded with 2 of their own off of 2 Demon 1 2Ks, but Paper Rex responded with their own round despite losing 2 to Calm's Hunter's Fury. EG claimed another 2 rounds off of Calm's Odin and Boostio's Judge. Paper Rex were able to win a thrifty off of absolute absurdity before trading the next 2 rounds, ending the half 7-5. EG are able to claim the pistol and the anti-eco, the latter coming off the back of Ethan's incredible 4K. Paper Rex won their rifle round but lost the next 2. Paper Rex were finally able to string rounds together, getting 4 in a row off of Devi and Something's op, putting them on map point. EG say never say die, as Boostio claimed 2 heads through smoke and EG claimed as many rounds. Something said it's Dover and took out 3 EG members as Jing cleans up and the map score is tied. This map was definitely a carry job from 3 of Paper Rex's members, as Mind Freak and Forsaken definitely struggled. Just wanted to point out that half of Jing's kills were first bloods. Insane. As we move on to Bind, EG absolutely dominated on the defensive half, completely shutting down Paper Rex's attack side, winning 7 of the first 8 rounds in the half, including the pistol. Paper Rex broke the losing streak with an incredible thrifty and were able to claim their 3rd off of a great ult combo. Evil Geniuses closed out the half with the last 2 rounds, and the 9-3 curse arrived. Paper Rex made it look a bit convincing, taking the first 2 rounds of the half, but EG completely shut them down and closed out the map with 4 rounds in a row off of amazing calls from Boostio. I think Paper Rex were trying to cook a little too hard here with Something on the breach to try to counter Demon 1's chamber pick, and they got blown out for that choice. Jogamo and Calm were huge on the defensive half, setting the tone for the team, as the former took the attack side into his hands with Demon 1, going 9-3-1 with 417 ACS, and Demon 1 putting up 6-2-1 with 263 ACS. Huge shout out has to go to Boostio's calling on the map, as Jogamo really took over for his team and raised Diff Jing pretty hard. Devi opens up Lotus with a triple kill, and Paper X are able to take the first 2 rounds. Both teams traded extremely close rounds back and forth 3 times, one of which came off of a Boostio ace before EG tied up the score with 2 of their own. Paper X closed out the half with the final 2 rounds 7-5. EG claimed the first 4 rounds of the half off the back of Demon 1 and Jogamo before Paper X were finally able to convert their retakes and took 2 rounds back. EG pried 3 rounds in a row with Jogamo and Demon 1 putting their team on their backs, bringing them to map and series point. Paper X were able to retake against an insane Viper's Pit from Calm, but only delayed the inevitable as Demon 1 closed them out with a 3k to take the map 13-10 and win the series for North America. Jogamo was just unleashed in this map and hard carried, knowing that his team had his back, as Demon 1 didn't seem to lose any of his duels, winning 2 huge clutches for his team. What a heartbreaker for Paper Rex and Jing, as they couldn't take it home, but they did put on a great performance nonetheless, and this Paper Rex roster will be remembered fondly forever. We love you, Jing. Overall, this series was the Demon 1 and Jogamo show. They put on an absolute masterclass as they blasted their way to becoming champions. Boostio had great calling throughout the entire series, and Ethan, of course, is the assist goat. Paper X just didn't look as in sync as they had so far in the tournament, and EG just showed up more on that day. What a way to end their story and year off. From being rated as America's worst team to becoming world champions, truly deserved, as everyone on their team put in so much work. Huge shout out goes to Calm, who was my most improved player of the year, because not only was his roster position questioned heavily at the beginning of the year, he was deemed as Evil Genius's weakest link. He proved everyone wrong by not only being an innovator, but being the X factor for his team throughout this tournament, being the key to them winning so many rounds and maps. Demon 1 is the rookie of of the year and the MVP of this tournament, and rightfully deserves to talk his talk because he backed it up all year. To think he was going to be on DSG with Clear and Steel before EG swooped in. What a crazy timeline we live in. And that's the story of Champions 2023. If you stuck all the way through with me, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I put in a lot of hours into this project and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving me a like and subscribing to the channel. This was a lot of fun and I hope to continue to see Valorant prosper in the future. And until next time, stay hydrated. Peace. After 76 rounds of Valorant, this is a fucking tongue twister, bro.